1962, with the roar of independence rising into the night air over Port of Spain, 16-year-old Joseph Esau stood in the streets of his East Dry River neighborhood and felt the electricity of a new nation being born. In that moment, the Fatima student and graduate of Nelson Street Boys and Rosary Boys RC was a teenager awash in the love of country, completely at one with the people on their way to nationhood. Life has taken Joe far and wide since then, but always, love of country has kept him grounded in the service of the land and the people that he so loves. In a world where accountants are like salt, making the difference without being seen, Joe Esau has built a reputation as a quiet force with a bold imprint that spans the professional, the public and the personal. Just over 40 years ago, Joe Esau came back from London as a trained accountant to let his bucket down at home. The year was 1971. He had spent 2 years there, working as an audit senior at Pennell Fitzpatrick and Company, Chartered Accountants, and was ready to return home to take up the position of audit manager at Pennell's Trinidad office, known today as Ernst & Young. From there, he would go on to build an outstanding professional career, establishing his own financial firm and building a reputation for financial wizardry. Alongside this, however, would emerge another trajectory of endeavour. Over an unbroken period of 25 years, Joe Esau would have the rare distinction of being called on by 4 different political administrations to serve the people of Trinidad and Tobago through directorships on several state boards. His parallel path in the public and private sectors would take him across to Deloitte & Touche, and then to launch his own financial consulting firm, Integrated Financial Counseling. Soon, he was on the fast track of putting together financial projects, including one that stands to this day as possibly the most dramatic financial deal in the history of Trinidad and Tobago. In 1986, Joe Esau developed the recapitalization and business plan that saved the McEnany Alston's conglomerate from bankruptcy to financial health and led it to become the cornerstone in the building of the Anser-McAl Group. In time, he would lend these same skills to the Victor E. Mute Group in its acquisition of KFC, leading to the exponential growth of Vemco and eventually positioning it to acquire the Agostini Group at its point of greatest expansion. Joe Esau was also a key mind behind the partnership that brought PriceSmart, Payless and the Marriott Group to Trinidad and Tobago, Jamaica and Barbados, while RBTT Financial Holdings, One Caribbean Media and the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, among others, have all had the benefit of his financial astuteness inside the boardroom. Joe Esau's growing reputation in the private sector was matched by an equally outstanding performance in the public sector, where he was on the boards of Trinidad and Tobago Telephone Company Limited from 1972 to 1987, Trinidad and Tobago Oil Company Limited from 1985 to 1986, and Trinidad and Tobago Free Zone Company Limited from 1989 to 1991. Given his success at Anser-McAl, it was no surprise when the state came calling with one of its toughest assignments, asking Joe Esau to take the reins as executive chairman of the beleaguered state airline BWIE. By the end of his 3-year term, BWIE was out of the red and healthily ready for divestment, even if subsequent developments were to undo much of the effort. Along the way, Joe Esau has made his contribution to national life through several high-level committees, including the 1979 State Advisory Committee on the Divestment of Shares in State Enterprises, the Capital Markets Working Group on the establishment of the Trinidad and Tobago Stock Exchange, the 1984 Advisory Committee to determine the future of the Iron and Steel Company of Trinidad and Tobago, ISCOT, in which he was chairman, the 1987 Securities Market Council, and the 1988 Committee to review the IMF operations in Trinidad and Tobago. But alongside the private business and the public service, another dream was unfolding for Joe Esau, one that will be an enduring legacy for generations to come. In 1989, in an initiative taken with friends and associates, Joe Esau threw his weight behind the development of the Institute of Business in a private sector collaboration with the University of the West Indies. In 23 years of unbroken service as chairman of the Finance Committee, Joe Esau played a pivotal role in growing the IOB from a humble project fighting for space inside the University of the West Indies into the ambitious Arthur Lockjack Graduate School of Business, which today boasts of its own campus, a healthy balance sheet and a stellar list of graduates. Today, at 66, Joe Esau is a force to be reckoned with in the business world, even after narrowing his contributions to serving on 7 boards. But he is beginning, ever so slightly, to change course, more and more, relishing time with his wife, his son and his grandchildren. In between, his special joy is mentoring young business minds anxious to pass on the experience of a unique life and fulfill the aspirations of the 16-year-old whose heart was so lifted on that night in 1962.
All through the time that I've known Joe, he has always been quick to give of himself. He's always been very quick to give advice, counsel, guidance, especially to younger people. And I can think of no better role model for young people in business, coming through a business life, to look up to somebody like Joe Esau and to become like a Joe Esau. He had tremendous business acumen. It was almost a gift, but I know he has shared that with many family businesses and many friends and everything and so on. And he has been consultant to many companies, and he has worked with many family-owned businesses to help them instill a sense of governance in the organization. I think he will continue to be a role model to many people, and I believe he will continue being very generous with his time to helping people actually in their various walks of life. So I can think of no better person to be inducted into the Chamber Hall of Fame than Mr. Joe Esau.
The Trinidad and Tobago Chamber of Industry and Commerce is indeed honored to induct Mr. Joseph Esau into the Business Hall of Fame.